According to Motley Fool, there are still plenty of states where the houses are well below $300,000. And of course, even though there are a lot of major metro areas with these cities that have houses way above $300,000, there's still a lot of surrounding areas in these expensive states that still have $300,000 houses. So in today's video, what we're gonna do is we're gonna talk all about $300,000 houses. Can you afford one? How much money you need to buy one? How does a budget look like on one of these? And just get a good general description to see if you are prepared, or at least you can start preparing for that home purchase. Because remember, who knows where the market might go? Maybe there might be a day where $300,000 houses are plenty. So don't just throw this video away just because your area doesn't have any in that area. First, let's talk about how much money you will need to buy a $300,000 house. There are two main types of loans. There's FHA, which needs about 3.5% down, and there is a conventional loans that you need between 5 and 20% down. If you're going with an FHA loan at 3.5% down, you will need about $10,500. If you're going with conventional, you will need, if you're going 5%, $15,000. If you're going 10%, $30,000. And if you're going 20%, $60,000. For closing costs, you're going to need about 2 to 3% of the purchase. In this case, we're going to be using 75, which is right in the middle. Keep in mind, if your state has really expensive property state taxes, this might be in the 4 or even 5% range. So please make sure you do your research ahead of time. In addition to these closing costs, you will need to pay about another $1,000 for a home inspection, your appraisal, or maybe even extra fees depending on your state. So all in all, it's an additional 2 to 3% plus $1,000. In total, if you're going with FHA, your down payment's $10,500, and with the closing cost of $7,500 plus $1,000 of additional stuff, you're going to be about $19,000. If you're going conventional with 5% down, your total is $23,500. If you're going 10% down, $38,500, and 20% down, you'll need about $68,500. Please keep in mind, this is not what you should be in your entire savings. You need to at least have a 2 to 6 month reserve before you even plan on saving your house. So if you're completely starting at zero right now, your goal should not be to, let's say if you're going conventional, $23,500. Your goal should say, well, let me save 10, 15K first for my fund and then start saving it. The worst thing you can do is just have 24K and just go spend it all in the house. You want to plan for emergencies. Next, let's talk about, can you afford a monthly payment for $300,000? So in this case, let's talk about what it goes into a mortgage payment. There are 5 factors in a mortgage payment: a principal, interest, taxes, insurance, and mortgage insurance, or PITIM for short. No one calls it PITIM, only I do. Your principal and interest will be easily determined using a basic mortgage calculator you can find anywhere. What will vary depending on your area are the taxes, insurance. The mortgage insurance more depends on the type of loan and your personal credit situation. So in this case, in this example, what we're going to do is we're going to give you different instances of the interest and taxes, but the insurance, we're going to be using $1,200 a year, an annual premium, and we're going to be using a mortgage insurance of about $150 a month. If you have excellent credit, you might find yourself paying like $30, $40, $50 for your mortgage insurance, or of course if you're putting 20% down, it'll be $0. But if you're like going FHA or you're buying with conventional and your credit isn't amazing, you could probably even pay up to $300 a month here. So that's why we're using $150, just to kind of be in the middle. And keep in mind, for insurance, you might live in a state like Florida or other states that have really high home insurance rates, so please account for that. That might go up another $1,000, $2,000 a year, which will go up another $100 to $300. I'm sure it goes even further, so please research that as well. For the sake of this video, we're going to be using the mortgage calculator on my home buyer resource suite for my Patreon. You don't have to use this one. You can go just use any calculator online or create your own using an Excel sheet. It's pretty simple. Just kind of Google it. You'll get a good idea. We're going to be using a down payment amount of 5%. Insurance premium is going to be $1,200 a year, and PMI is going to be about $150 a month. Tax rate is the one that's going to vary. So for this base example, just to get a good idea, at 7%, here's scenarios how it looks like for the taxes. And if you have an annual tax rate of $3,000 a year, your payment looks like $23. Now, keep in mind, I can change that tax rate to $5,000 a year, $10,000 a year. As long as the principal and the interest doesn't change, my P&I will stay the same. That's why I said it always is predictable. It's nice and easy. We can use the calculations to find that. So if we're going to use just a standard 7% rate, we can get a good idea of what the scenario looks like depending on the taxes you pay. So at 7% interest, if you're paying $3,000 a year, you're paying $2,396.11 for your monthly payment. At $5,000 a year, you're paying $2,562 with 78 cents. And of course, it goes all the way to $10,000 where you're paying up to $2,976 and 45 cents. So the more taxes you pay, the more your monthly payment is. Who would have known? Now, let's talk about the interest rate. The interest rate can vary greatly. Like if we go here and we put a current property tax rate of, let's say, $3,000 a year, we can see the different scenarios here of how that rate really affects it. Now, keep in mind, if we're changing the rate, a few things get adjusted. Not only does your monthly payment go down lower when your interest rate goes lower, but there's two things that get affected. If I change this to 6%, my P&I goes down. Obviously, principal and interest goes down. But not only does the P&I go down, but the amount of interest you pay over time goes down significantly, because the way interest is calculated, they use your current balance, they use the interest rate, and your balance only goes down slightly, right? It starts really high and it barely goes down anything. And as time progresses, you pay more principal and the interest goes down. If you're buying this house at 7% interest, you're paying $397,600.36 over 30 years. If you're saying, what would refinance in 10 years? Okay, $187,000. If you get a house at 5%, that is $130,000 over 10 years and $265,000 over 30 years. So it's not just a difference of $200 a month. It really factors in a lot more, and your P&I, of course, also drops, so your payment drops. So keep in mind. At a $3,000 property tax rate, your monthly payments look like this. At 7%, we're at $2,396.11. All the way down to 4%, you can see the adjustment there to $1,860.63. If this is the first time you're seeing numbers like this, know this is why so many people were going crazy buying houses between 2020 to 2022. Rates were in the twos even, which, can you imagine what the monthly payment looks like? It's insane. And so many people wanted to take advantage of that, and that's where they were willing to pay so much cash. So I just threw a bunch of numbers at you. You're either clicking away from the video or you're punching something. Before you punch something, wait. I created a nice little cheat sheet to help you. Keep in mind, the PMI is 150 and the insurance annual premium is 1,200 for these numbers. So it'll get adjusted if those get adjusted. So how we use this is we simply find the rate that we're currently in, which were 7%, and we find out where the property tax state. So here in Arizona, property taxes are like $2,000, like really cheap. So we go 7%. So my average payment looks like $2,313, give or take. If you are in a tax rate, like you're paying $9,000 annual, your interest rate's at $7,000, then it's $2,896. So huge difference in property taxes, and of course, huge difference in the interest rate. So for the sake of this video, we're going to be using a, let's say, I don't know, $4,000 range, $4,000 property tax value, and 7% interest rate, so about $2,400 to $2,500 a month, around there. Now that we understand how the monthly payment looks like for a $300,000 mortgage, let's go and see what your budget and how much money you need to be making a year to safely afford it. So first, what would you need to qualify for this kind of payment? Well, it's quite simple. To figure out what you qualify for, you get your gross monthly income and you divide it in half. So basically they get 50% of that number. Once they get that number, they subtract any minimum payments that you have on anything with your credit card. So credit card, car payments, whatever the case is, your minimum payment, not what you are currently paying. So since we know the monthly payment that we're trying to qualify for, we can safely just work our way backward and find out what we need to qualify. If we're trying to qualify for a $2,500 monthly payment, we simply double it and we get $5,000. And if we have no debts, basically all you need to do is make about $5,000 in gross income to qualify. So let's see how that looks like on paper. So I wrote down just basic essentials here: water, electricity, internet, phone. You guys always flame me for the numbers I pick out here. And I'm not going to put childcare, because last time I put like 200 or 300 and people were like, are you out of your freaking mind? Like, I pay $800 for childcare greatly affects your ability to buy a home. I'm sorry for anyone going through that. It's just a privilege I have. My wife and I work from home. My wife stays home. So my heart goes out to you. Forgive me for assuming the costs are. We're going to leave it zero for now because it does greatly impact it. So no, you can add your own fee on your own, essentially. So we're going to assume like your car payment's $200. You have 2 credit card payments, $150, well, the other $150 as well. And we're going to look at the gross monthly income of $5,000 and the net income of $4,000, basically, because let's assume a 20% tax rate. So with this number, you qualify for $2,200. So it doesn't quite work. Let's go to like $5,500, $2,450. So you will simply qualify for $2,450, which is $300,000 if you're making $71,000 a year or you're taking home about $52K. But wait, there is a difference between qualifying and what you can afford. Qualifying for a $2,400 monthly payment at this range puts you in a terrible spot. Basically, your potential mortgage is 60% of your take-home income. And your leftover money every month is $240. So you better have a crystal clear budget, because I tell you what, you have no money left over. This is a terrible position to put yourselves, and that's why we don't look at what we can qualify for. We look at what we can afford. And in order to do that, we base it off of our net income. We go back here and we go to our net income, which is $4,000 a month, and we can use this number to figure out what range we should be in. So really safe is about 25% of your net, 30% of your net is safe. Just right is about 33% of your net. So this is the range we want to be in. This is already using a very popular method, 28% of your gross, which I don't like. I'd rather use net. And you guys have seen the evolution of these videos. And the more I'm making these videos, the more I realize we should be using net, right? And of course, 30% of gross as well. Try not to be here, but sometimes we have to, but I get it. But try to be around here. You should only be buying a house for like $1,300 a month if you are making this much money, which is a terrible position. You qualify, lender will tell you qualify for $300,000, but really you should be buying a $150,000 house. Let's look, 150,000. Yeah, like basically 150, like half of that, right? So what do we need to be making to safely afford that? Well, for sure, we can't be at 60%. This has to be at least 25 to 33% of our net take-home pay. So there's a big discrepancy there. We need to at least add, like $2,000 to our net to get in a better position. So in order to add $2,000 to our net, which is $6,000, we need to probably add, I'm assuming, $3,000 to our gross, which would put us at what, like $8,500, 85, maybe 8,000. Yeah, so 64. So $8,000 would be about $6,400 net if we're doing 20% tax rate here. And that puts us in a better position if we are like maybe, I don't know, lower interest rate range or low tax rate range, right? But we're not there. We're at 7, right? So if we're using our current numbers, it doesn't quite work. We still need a little bit more money. So let's increase this to, let's say, 9,000, which puts us at 7,200 net income. I feel like you guys are like that Walt meme when he's like, Hank, he like yelling at me to not keep going higher, but I have to. So that this puts us in a good position where we're just right numbers, 2376, tight 2520. So we're still kind of squeezing the budget more than we need to, but we get that 2,400 range that we're looking for. And this puts us in a much better position where a $2,400 monthly payment would be a third of our net income. And you have about 50% of your income left with savings. So that's how it looks like. You need to be making approximately, I don't know, it was like $60,000 to $70,000 to qualify for it. But to safely afford it, you need to be making closer to $120,000, which if you divide it between 2 people, that's about $60,000 a person. And if you're not with another person, then you need to be making at least that to safely afford that number. I think the point of these videos, what we end up realizing is this doesn't make sense. Like with the interest rate and the prices, they're not matching the current average salary right now, the average day per person. It just doesn't make sense. Something has to give. Interest rates need to drop, prices need to drop. It's just not jiving well here. So that if you're hoping on prices dropping, whenever rates do drop, there's a lot of people on the sideline because people buy based off their monthly payment, which is why you're probably watching this video, rather than what the actual savings are or what the deal they're getting, right? So right now, if you are buying a house, try to prioritize getting the house as cheap as possible to pad yourself as much as possible for any potential further drops, or possibly if the interest rates do go down, you'll have more equity there to play around with to really buy down a nice rate. If you're looking for this video in a $400,000 form, check out this video that I made about a month ago. And of course, if you were looking for the Patreon link, the link's in the description with all the home buying resources I use. And if you're looking for an agent referral, I have a great tool in the description as well you can use. Thank you guys so much. I appreciate you. Have a good one.